Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? Today we're going to play something that we've never played on the channel before, and that's going to be a blue tribal deck with low-costed creatures, high tempo elements, and some counter spells. Wait, stop, do not click off. I'm playing Rogues, y'all. And before we go ahead and have our little laugh about how similar Rogues is to Spirits, let's actually talk about why somebody would want to play this deck. Because for the most part, it basically does a lot of the same stuff that Spirits does. It really does play a 1/3 flyer for 2 that has a Lord effect. It has a flash flying 2/1 that you would normally want to play when you're not really doing anything else with your turns. You have cheap, efficient threats for 1 mana. You have dual purpose cards like Brazen Borrower and ways to generate a little bit of card advantage along the way. The reason Rogues is different from Spirits is because you're not actually trying to counter everything. This deck only has 6 counterspells, 2 Spell Pierces, and 4 copies of Drawn in the Lock, and Drawn in the Lock is possibly the biggest draw to this deck. So you're already trying to mill your opponents via Thieves Guild Enforcer and Soaring Thought Thief, and that turns down Drawn in the Lock for either counterspell or removal mode, and the removal is going to be a large portion of why you would ever consider playing black in the first place. You get to play cards like Drawn in the Lock, Go for the Throat, and Fatal Push, so that you're stuck without dealing with creatures anywhere near as much as you would normally have to if you were playing Spirits. Normally, we would just have things like Shacklegeist, maybe a couple of Brazen Borrowers, maybe some Nabelgast Heralds, tap opposing creatures and control combat that way, where incorporating black into your deck just lets you get them all the way out of the picture by straight up killing them. You also get to play Thoughtseize. Last I heard, this card was pretty good, so, there's that. And then, of course, you get to play the best card in the entire format, and that's going to be Sheoldred the Apocalypse. This card is absolutely busto. No, I will not be talking about the applications of Sheoldred, and this is just going to be a pretty exciting archetype as a whole, because even though we're playing a whole new color set and a lot of cards that we normally would never dream of wanting to play with, you're still going after a lot of the same goal. And that brings us to the whole discussion about where Rogue sits in the meta. Right now, Rogues is listed on Goldfish as actually being more popular than any version of Spirits. And tiny little butthurt aside, there's a couple of reasons for that. You still want to have all of the interaction that black cards give you, but what the removal gets you is a much closer to 50-50 matchup spread than you would normally have as Spirits. For example, if you're playing against a deck like Mono Green or even Greasefang, Spirits is incredibly favored against those decks because everything in your deck flies, so decks like Mono Green can't just put up an Old Growth Troll and expect the ground to be gummed up. That doesn't work against Spirits. It also works to a much smaller extent against Rogues, but Rogues still has ground pounders like Sheoldred and Thieves Guild Enforcer that can be blocked by things like Old Growth Troll, 3-drop Lucranos, which of course has reach and can block everything in the deck. But unlike Spirits, you can just go for the throat that thing and call it a day. We don't really necessarily have that ability most of the time. Against decks like Greasefang, you have removal, you have counter spells, you have cheap threats to threaten them along the way, but you don't have anything like Shacklegeist that's basically an instant I win button against decks like that. Of course, the trade-off is that you're much better against some decks that you would otherwise be absolute dog shit against. So if you're playing against, for example, Mono White, that's where you really appreciate the ability to cast cards like Fatal Push and Go for the Throat, whereas Spirits is just kind of like, well, maybe I win a die roll, maybe my opponent plays bad, or maybe I get to counterspell their 3-drops and they have to rely on their 2-drops to kill me. Here, you just get to actually kill the things and get them the hell out of the way. You also trade out a lot of sideboard options. We're not playing any we're not playing any white cards because we're playing the black cards. So you don't get to play new things like Surge of Salvation, Errant Giada, or Invasion of Gobakhan. Instead, you're playing a bunch of black cards to try to help mitigate the creature matchups. Here you get to play 4 copies of Raven Feeblement that are clearly super good against Mono White. But remember that Greasefang is a white creature with less than 4 toughness, so this will come in against them as well. You get Cling to Dust for some extra graveyard hate, which is important in this deck because you're trying to put cards in your opponent's graveyards. It's not like Spirits where you're exiling a lot of stuff with spell quellers and whatnot. You're bouncing cards to their hands with things like Brazen Bower, and you're generally holding up a stupidly high amount of counter spells between Mausoleum Wanderer, Spell Queller, and then any actual counter spells you have in your hand. But Cling to Dust is going to be incredibly important against something like Greasefang, because this deck both plays fewer counter spells and the mill cards put cards in their graveyard for them. So on top of the one Cling to Dust in the main, we've got two more here in the board. We're still going to be playing the Reckoner Bankbusters that we would normally want to be playing against a deck like Rakdos, because you still have the same basic plan as Spirits against them. You want to be able to threaten the ability to either draw a card or produce a threat at instant speed, and Bankbuster still does that for you. Power Word Kill gets you a couple more pieces of interaction here, and I'm choosing Gopher to throw in the main over Power Word Kill because, especially on Arena, but this is important in regular Pioneer as well, creature type Angel actually comes up kind of a lot. Like, the Angels deck is pretty popular on this platform and is decently popular in Pioneer. You have Neoform Atraxa, which is not exactly what we want to be seeing on Pioneer. Luckily, it doesn't really exist here on Arena because I don't think there's a Tasigur and I don't think Hooting Mandrills exists here. So you can't play Neoform here. But you can in Pioneer, and Atraxa is an Angel, so let's not deal with that in the main. Instead, these extra kill spells are going to live in the sideboard. And then the last two spots here are going to be for 2 copies of Negate and 2 copies of Mystical Dispute. Negate is just good against all of the combo decks, and this realistically could be Duress as well. But seeing as our entire deck is, well, almost our entire deck is instant speed, and we have Thoughtseize to solve some bigger problems, I figured Negate was a great answer to bigger problems. Or I'm sorry, this is good against smaller problems. This is good for bigger problems, I guess. And then Mystical Dispute's going to be here because Rogues is a popular deck, so we are going to probably fight at least one mirror in our matches today. And it's also just like good against decks like Spirits, right? Like, there's a lot of tempo that lives in this format, especially now that Rogues is a real deck that, you know, people started to downplay for a bit because it originally came from a standard deck. But almost everything in Pioneer came from an old standard deck, so I never really understood that bit of, I guess, gatekeeping, downplay, whatever you want to call it. But either way, Mystical Dispute solved a lot of problems that exist in the format. So that's enough jibber jabber about what's actually in the deck. Let's go to some gameplay. Today's video brought to you by FusionGamingOnline.com, your one-stop shop for all your gaming needs. Okay, round one's here, and our hand is not bad, right? Like, we've got Fatal Push on 1, we have something on 2, 3, and 4, so that's about as perfect as a curve can get. And against Blood Crypt, I don't even really mind if they, for example, Thoughtseize this. I think that's actually mostly okay. And I do like the fact that I drew Soaring Thought Thief because that is immune to Bonecrusher Giant Stomp. So if that's what they're holding as their first piece of removal, that's not going to do them any good here. I don't necessarily want that to happen, but it is going to, whether I like it or not. So here what I'm going to do is just develop my Soaring Thought Thief, and then I can untap. Oh, that's good too. But start my mill/attack so that my Lord effect looks good, and I can still Fatal Push this. So that's going to be my plan here. And then what I can do now is use this turn playing either a Brazen Bower to bounce or Fairy Mastermind so that I keep the threat train going here. Graveyard Trespasser, that's fine, I guess. So they can exile their own Bonecrusher to keep both, I mean, obviously the whole life total thing happening, but also it lets them do the thing where they actually get to, what am I thinking? Keep us under 8 cards in their graveyard, because we don't really want to have them with fewer than 8 cards so that this card looks really good. And if we draw any copies of, that's fine. If we draw any copies of, card titles are hard, y'all. If I could think of what I'm thinking of, that'd be excellent. Thieves Guild Enforcer, that's what I was trying to think of. So if we had access to any like Thieves Guild Enforcers, then I feel like we'd be pretty happy with them having 8 cards in the yard, right? And yes, I cast a spell to Thoughtseize, so we're just gonna pass here. So they get to make their cheeky here, and I can now choose between Brazen Bower, bounce this thing, discarding the Thoughtseize that I don't know that I care about too much, untap, cast Shieldred, or let them do the attack, drain and gain here, I take 4 total damage, go to 11, they go to 19, and they get to develop this. No, I don't think I like that as much. So I'm going to bounce that, discarding the Thoughtseize that I don't want to cast anyway, if I'm being completely honest. I don't really want to be sacrificing my life total for that. They do get to redeploy, so now life totals are 14 to 19, assuming they get rid of their creature. They do. And they're going to play Misery Shadow as well. You got it. So a Kaito's not bad for next turn, actually. I am going to attack because I'm not going to get to block anything, so let's do this. Rather, block profitably. I'm not going to get to block profitably. So now, we have Shieldred going. They currently don't, which is nice. And if we can manage to... Well, I'm not blocking that. You got that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can go down to 6 if they sink all of their mana into this. I guess that's okay-ish. And they will sink all of it into it. Nope, all but 1, because they want to make the ability to double block Shieldred. You got it. So now we're going to do that, and I'm going to attack with the Mastermind here. And I'm going to only attack with that so that I can Kaito. And now my Kaito is going to let me draw. Do I want to draw more than I want to Ninja? I have this, but they only have 3 cards, so this is nowhere near death touching. I want to draw, and I guess give myself a chance to draw a Fatal Push for Misery. No, but that's okay. So now this thing phases out. They can make another Graveyard Glutton, and when they tap the mana here, I'm going to do this so that I've played 2 cards during my turn. These will go back to being 3/3s. They do mill the 2. Oh, you know what? That was a mistake. So they already had the Bone Crusher, so they were already going to get the Draining Gain here. But it was a mistake to not wait until the mill resolved to do the thing, because in the event that I didn't have enough fuel, we could have accidentally given them fuel with the mill. So I actually should have thought a little harder about that. Here, what do we do? What do we... We're Misery Shadows. Are there any more creatures? No, but they're still going to mill themselves to get away from 8 cards in the yard. That makes sense. So what can I do here? I can definitely block 1. If I block this one, I take 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana's available. So if I block here and here, they can still pump this to like way beyond lethal. So I want to kill the real one with Death Touch. Take 6, go to 3. Yeah, not a huge fan, but I suppose it's going to happen. So they can pump 3 into this, make it a 5/5 so that it at least trades with my Shieldred. And I take 6 and go to 3 and a Harvester. That is not very good for me. Okay. Agadeem's Awakening. That does absolutely nothing right now. Oops. Is there any way I get out of this nonsense? I think the answer might just be like, make one of these and cross my fingers. Absolutely not attacking. Oh, that's going to Draining Gain 2. So they made another Glutton. You got it. So there goes the Misery Shadow. Oh, and the Mutavault. I cannot block 4 things with my 3 blockers. All right, you got it. So against them, I want Bankbusters. I don't really want the Spell Pierces. And I kind of want to take something out for the Power Word Kills. I guess I'm going to put 2 of these back in. Do I want Spell Pierces or Clings more? I think I actually want the Spell Pierces more. Yeah, let's run it back like this. So I'm hoping that on the play this feels a lot better, but also not having Thoughtseize in a deck should feel pretty decent later on. Because in this type of matchup here, where we're just kind of like stuck going attrition for attrition, right? We have a lot of the same tools. Like we have the same black removal spells, like your Power Word Kills, your Fatal Pushes. We both start off the match with Thoughtseizes and stuff. But when we're trying to pace ourselves with like Reckoner Bankbusters and stuff, you don't really want to be discarding 1 from their hand when they can just like Bankbuster and then draw 3. That feels really bad. Okay, so now we get to play first, and our hand is actually fine. Like we've got double Fatal Push, and that helps to cover us in case of, I don't know, a Blood Tide Harvester on turn 2. If they Thoughtseize this away, I guess that's mostly fine. I've got a lot of Dark Slick Shores. Don't really want this many, but let's see if there's a Misery Shadow or... Oh, am I just getting Thoughtseized? That's fine. They can take the Memory Deluge, and I can't do anything with that until turn 7. So that will suck in the event of, like, a Graveyard Trespasser exiling this. God damn it. Once again, here I am speaking things into existence, none of which are good for me. That's not great either. Alright, don't particularly want this to be on the table, but I can't do much about it, and I don't think I'm going to be... yeah, that's fine. I take the 4, go to 16, and I actually will wait on the Brazen Bower, because if they have the line of do something to Brazen Bower, like, I don't know, Bone Crusher, Giant Stomp, Power Word, Kill, whatever, right? I want to give myself the option of being able to Fatal Push this thing. And I can use the other Fatal Push here, which is nice too. Okay, nothing's in graveyards to take here, so I will take this and go to 12. But I'm going to set a stop at end of turn so that I can Fatal Push this first. So that's going to go away. Then I'm going to develop Soaring Thought Thief, keeping this land in my hand so that I can use it as fuel for the Fatal Push if they kill it now. And they're not going to kill it now, so am I allowed to attack? I didn't think so. Okay. Obnoxious, but you got it. Yes, I'm sure. Discarding this Watery Grave. And I am going to play this land. So this way, if I end up having to use Petty Theft, I can still develop the Brazen Borrower, but also it gets me just like another land closer to this Hall of Storm Giants, which would be pretty nice to get to attack with. But first, I'm just going to get to do this. So that feels all right. I'm going to play around the Bone Crusher Giant Stomp here, and I'm just going to loot. I assume I'm going to be discarding whatever I draw instead of Brazen Borrower, but let's see if, I don't know, this doesn't catch like a Fry or some bullshit like that. Hooligan's command to discard a card to... Oh, your mother. All right. Well, I guess I'm casting this then. And I'm probably walking into a Bone Crusher Giant Stomp, but there's not much I can do about that. So here I'm just going to get to like mill a card, basically. And Castle Lochthwain is not one that I wanted at 12 anyway, so I guess that's okay. But now this is probably going to die to a Stomp. Doesn't feel great. Oh, okay, so maybe a Fatal Push then. It is a Fatal Push. Okay. So now how do I get out from under this Trespasser? I can draw just like something bigger than it, right? Like I can just draw Shieldred and that feels okay. Unlicense Hearse to manage in her own graveyard doesn't sound too terrible. I'm one land short of this. All right, Ninja it is. Yeah, resolves, whatever. So we've got a Ninja going on now, and let's just pass the turn here. Oh, nighttime's a little annoying. That's fine, I guess. So here they're gonna, yep, I was gonna say, I assume they're gonna attack the Kaito. They're gonna get the Draining Gain. Do I have 2 creatures? I do have 2 creatures. That sucks. All right, you got it. I will block and protect my Kaito since I expect that I'm going to be using this Brazen Borrower next turn. Fable's annoying, but I can bounce the token with Petty Theft and another Harvester. Jesus, nothing but gas. Okay, so I will be bouncing you and then casting you. So if they want, they can exile a couple of things here, but really I'm just gonna like get an attack in, try to draw a card, and then do my best to draw into something that doesn't let me just like die on the crackback, because I already can't block the with the Brazen Borrower anyway. Even an untapped land isn't that bad, because I can block with the Hall of Storm Giants. Oh, sick. So now I can block this big ass thing with the Hall of Storm Giants. But if this is a creature, like, oh no, they don't have a 1-drop, never mind. I was gonna say, if they can like crew that up, then that's a little scary. But I guess I'm mostly, oh wow, that's okay. I actually don't hate this for us, because now if they just like fire up the Hive of the Eye Tyrant and attack with anything other than just Hive, it looks like they're only attacking with Hive. Damn. So now my poor Kaito's just kind of dead in the wind here. So unfortunately, my opponent is playing the way they're supposed to. I really don't think we have a way to get out of this, so I'm actually just going to pack this one up and move to the next round. Gigi's opponent, our opponent played really well, so yeah, see y'all in the next round. Round 2's here. Let's be on to play with our 3-lander. This is fine. So I have a turn 1 Thieves Guild Enforcer into Drown in a Lock that can counter something that costs 2 or less, because I'll be putting cards in their graveyard, so that's kind of dope. And I do not mind doing something to this Llanowar Elves with a Brazen Borrower, so I actually will bounce this now, put them off a little bit here, and then get an attack in. So now let's just see what ends up happening. They're just going to replay the Elves, you got it. So now I'm going to offer a trade. I do not mind if they want to trade with my Enforcer. Oh my god, seriously? Yes. So now, importantly, that puts a 3rd card in their graveyard, which means I can counter something like Kiora with this Drown in the Lock. I don't actually care about that. So I can just develop Brazen Borrower here, and now with my 4 mana, what I can do is, first of all, get a sweet attack in. But also, Petty Theft plus Drawn in a Lock works. I can just develop Shieldred, and that is my plan now. And then I can get to work on worrying about other stuff as it comes, because I'm currently not being threatened by anything too scary. Like, that's actually okay with me. What, opponent? Okay, didn't think so. I'm like, you're allowed, but I don't know if that's goes into list of good ideas. So I'm going to play you so that I can play all three of these spells. So I'm going to first bounce the Pelucranos, and now I get to safely attack with both of my creatures. If you want to block with this, you are certainly free to. Hell yeah, do that. So now they do have extra mana, and the cool part about adding the extra mana here, at least as far as my end is concerned, is that, oh, you know what? If they have Storm the Festival exactly, this could suck. I might have fucked up if they have exactly Storm the Festival. But the idea here, and actually even included the fact that this is not going to stay in the yard. Damn it. Oh, I messed up. So my plan was to Thieves Guild Enforcer, put them at 5 cards in the graveyard, and then counter a Cavalier. But I didn't account for the fact that they could just like have a land in hand and that could get to 6. Vorinclex, what do you do? 2 forests, Shuffleophagus, exile, transform, and I'm not reading all that. Okay. Oh, hand? Not even the battlefield? Oh, hand. Oh, that's not that scary. All right. In that case, I'll just Thieves Guild Enforcer anyway. Milling 2 forests. That is 6 cards in the yard. Oh, you have reach. You have reach. Fuck off. All right. So now they're dead. So we make them take 8. They draw 1 for their turn. Welcome to die. And now against mono green, what do I want? I want negates. I want power word kills. I want none of the rest of these cards. Cards that I do not want include Spell Pierces, Cling to Dust. Cling is okay. It's not like actually good. And I want to get rid of 1 more card. It might end up just being a Kaito. Double check these. Yeah, all right. It is the Kaito. So I do like having access to drawing cards with Kaito, right? But I don't think it's better than any of the removal spells because you just need more of them now that Pelucranos is a card that exists. And hands like this, actively pretty great. It looks like you don't have to be on just spirits to get the auto concession from mono green. Let's move on to the next round. Right, round 3, I am very excited to not keep this hand. And this one is looking a lot better. So I can do a few things here. I can just like 1 drop, 2 drop, hold up things. I can ship this. Or I can go 1, 2, 3, ship this, keep this. That plays a little better around them being Greasefang, but not too much of anything else. So actually, you know what? Let's gamble. I don't think this is a very unsafe gamble either. Right step. So we might be playing against midrange again. So if we're playing against midrange, this is pretty obnoxious. If we're playing against rack sack, then this is a little bit better for us. And I actually don't mind just like Cling to Dust myself. Yeah, so here they probably just take my Drown in the Lock. And if they do, then I will Cling to Dust, Drown in the Lock from my own graveyard. Nope, they're getting rid of the creatures. Dang. I don't want to Cling to Dust one of my creatures because I want to use this to draw a card against the discard deck. But I also want to... Wait, there's 2 cards in the yard, not 3. Damn. I want 1 more card to be in the yard so I can get rid of 3 drops. Fable is something I would have loved to counter. I am going to... Anyway, target their Thoughtseize because I want the draw more than I want the life gain. Fatal Push is actually okay-ish. I'm going to use the Fatal Push. I would rather use that and hold up a potential Drown if they use the discard ability here. Okay, so they go up to 2 cards in the graveyard. Another Fable. Not going great currently. And to be fair, a good amount of this is... Oh my god, a 3rd Fable. Come on. Well, at least I can counter that. So I'm still not happy about Reflection here and a Reflection coming here, but I'm also not exactly in the best space to do anything about any of this. So a Shieldred is quite possibly one of the best cards I could have drawn, but it's still really easy for them to get rid of it. If they have a Fatal Push, that will work because the Kiki-Jiki just exiled itself. If they have a land, they can't quite do the Kroxa thing yet. Oh, wait, do I have 5 cards? I have 7 cards. So I can get rid of one of these at least, and then start going from there. Okay, so now I am going to get an attack in. No real point to being a punk about this. I'm already going to have a hard time with these. So let's do this, and they can copy the Kiki to do that thing. That's fine. They only have a few lands, so that's actually not that terrible for us. And let's get rid of one of these Kroxas now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess. Actually, I probably should have left the Soaring Thought Thief in. In the event that I draw Agadeem's Awakening, I do want the creature that has flying to be the one that actually survives, and I hope I didn't screw myself out of that potential draw later, but we'll see what happens. Harvester, no! well, at least they can't kill my children now, but that doesn't mean I'm happy to see a Harvester plus Kiki combo. That's really bad for me. Dark Slick Shores is almost exactly the opposite of what I wanted to see here. So I am going to get an attack in with Hive of the Eye Tyrant, which is nice. And if they try to block this even kind of profitably... Oh, actually, I shouldn't have played that. What happens here? So I can Hive of the Eye Tyrant, exile the other Kroxa. Yeah, I'm going to do this. So the other Kroxa is gone. They can't block both of these profitably, but they can do this and chump block the Shieldred if they want, or they can double block the Hive Tyrant and I can take the real one. If they double block the Shieldred, I'm medium happy to get the Harvester part of the combo off the table, but they probably just like chump block with the token, take 3 and call it a day, which, oh, sick. Yeah, please. All right, so that's actually a lot better for me. So had they simply blocked with the token, on their next turn, what they could have done is simply made another Harvester, had 3 blood tokens in play, and then sacrificed just the token, so that we are just kind of looking at 3 bloods. So, you know, to be able to do 6 toughness, and that would have not been very fun for me to deal with. I'm going to get rid of nothing since I've seen 2 Kroxas. I have to target a card. Oh, fine, I'll get rid of a creature, I guess. Oh yeah, it's not a May, it's just exile target card. Oh, I'm dumb. That's on me. I knew that was an option. Yep, that's completely on me. Oh, why'd they do that now? Opponent. Oh no, they're doing it wrong. These are going to fade during my end step. They should have given themselves the chance to attack me with like a million of these. Never mind. So I guess they unscrewed it up for me? This is still terrible, but oh, well, I'm not beating 2 of these plus a Denida Bugbear, so let's just keep it going. Don't need to kind of fart around here for games that are not going to go particularly well. So I want these again. I saw 2 Kroxas, and even still, I don't necessarily know that I want multiple Cling to Dust. I think I'd rather have those than one of these, though. It probably feels a little better. I don't know that I would have done that had I seen only 1 Kroxa, but since we saw 2, I think the Cling to Dusts feel a lot better. Okay, so let's play first, and this hand's a keep. All right, I'm in for this. So hopefully my Bankbuster doesn't just get the shit end of a Thoughtseize. But if it doesn't, then I'm feeling pretty okay with this as long as we hit land drops. And looks like we are gonna get away with the Bankbuster resolving. So that part's pretty nice. Don't abrade it. Okay. I am enjoying the fact that it did not get abraded. I am not enjoying the fact that our lovely 23 land deck is not currently very good at hitting a 3rd land. Okay, so there's a Trespasser. Not happy about that. I'm gonna just try to draw a card here. Okay, so there's the land drop I was asking for previously. And here, what do I want to do? I can Kaito, loot, nah. I think I'm gonna Kaito make a token. So if they spend, I don't know, part of a card getting rid of this, then that's fine. If they don't spend part of a card getting rid of this, okay, and that's the part of a card I was talking about, so that's fine. We take the attack, they cast a spell during their turn, so this doesn't flip. So I'm taking 3, going to 15, and I get what feels like a relatively safe untap. Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna play the swamp, loot away to Watery Grave, I assume. Nope, Dark Slick Shores it is, and give myself a chance here to... Oh, you know what? Let's just do this. Yeah, I'm going to do that to prevent the flip. And if they Fatal Push here, then I can Fatal Push back, okay? So now I can push, getting rid of one of these 2 Cling to Dusts. Oop, there we go. There. I have no creatures, you have no creatures. And now I stomp my Kaito. Yeah, sure. Do I want to Cling again? No, untap. That's not bad. So I'm going to do this. So now I have all of my interaction up. I can draw a card plus cast all 3 of these if need be. And I'm going to start by doing this one. Okay, you get to mill a couple of cards. Land. You can Thoughtseize away to Fatal Push, but I already didn't plan on using that against one of these anyway. Or I guess more to the point, I didn't plan on... Oh my god, a 3rd stomp. Are you serious right now? Yeah, you got it. Eesh. Not very good at fading those, I guess. I am going to Cling myself. Oh, whoops. That was their Thoughtseize. I should have known it was their Thoughtseize because we're not playing Thoughtseize. Let's go ahead and play a blue source here. And pass with Power Word Kill up for the Bone Crusher Giants, and Soaring Thought Thief just for some kind of offense on the way back. That feels nice. So I am going to play my threat here, and I'm going to be sad about the fact that Thoughtseize means I'm not going to get to Power Word Kill one of these, but at least I will get to respond to one of these by Bankbuster. And that way, if I end up drawing, like, say, a Drown in a Lock, I can use that. Shieldred's Edict. That's actually fine. It's a little annoying, but that's very low on the list of things I care about currently. Do I want to cling or just use my mana for this? I think I'm going to use my mana for this. Oh, there's a draw and a lock. Cool, cool, cool. Remember that time we talked about drawing into that? And Agadeem's Awakening. Oh, I can Awakening for 2. That costs 5. And I have 7. Look at us go. Okay, so I am going to do that. And 1, 2, 3. Wait, 1, 2. Yeah, 1, 2. So now they mill 4. My lords are lording. I have a counterspell in hand that plays around something like, say, Ritual of Soot or Extinction Event. I guess it also plays around a Bone Crusher Giant, but now I don't really care so much about those. Now that we're getting to do our thing, I'm much more worried about, like, just their potential ability to stop me from doing my thing, more than I want to prevent them from doing theirs. So, the question becomes, do I just kill one of these now, untap, make it their problem? I think the answer is actually yes, which really means I should have countered one of these. So I'm going to play right. Oh, that's actually pretty good. That can get back the other one of these that I saw. You can do Planeswalkers too, right? Yes, that can get Planeswalkers. Sick. All right, so I'm going to do this and then let them block the Bankbuster if they really want to. That's fine by me, I guess. Yes, you can block the Enforcer if you want. Okay, so I can get Kaito back, draw a card, let them potentially take this. Yeah, sure. Oh, well, I can't cast Shieldred this turn, so I'm just going to do this and get my guaranteed card now rather than potentially getting a Shieldred Thought Seized. Oh, that's actually really good. So now if they just like jam this, then I have the ability to just like go for the Throat It and still hold up my counterspell. That's actually fine. I mean, I don't know, fine, but it's gonna happen. So let's get an attack in for 2 and draw another card. Pathway is actually not bad. I am gonna go for the Throat this now and pass. So I've got 5 mana, not 6. So I can't do both this and this, but I can double drown, which still feels pretty good. Oh, all right. Well, remember that time we talked about, like, maybe putting Children in our hand and getting it Thought Seize? They actually had the Thought Seize. So I'm glad that we didn't just walk ourselves into that. Oh, that's going to feel really good for this Drown in the Lock. Okay. So now let's destroy this. Not let them get that bit of value there. If they want to attack Kaito, they can. I don't really care about that. I'm not going to block that. Oh, I would rather not. That card's really good. Not a... Okay, sick. So now we get to go into game 3, and I'm going to keep essentially the same plan, hoping that the Reckoner Bankbuster is as good this game as it was last game. Our hand is actually not bad at all. This is pretty good. So they can Thought Seize my Thieves Guild Enforcer to kind of stop the Pain Train from coming, but honestly, this hand is just kind of pretty sweet. So the only thing that I'm really sad about is if they leave Weeby with the Thieves Guild Enforcer, then it is liable to being stomped out by Bone Crusher Giant, which obviously sucks. But they've got a real choice to make here. Like, they can take this and deny me my flyer that's immune to Bone Crusher. Okay, that's fine. They can do the thing where they try to fade one turn of getting attacked with this by holding up Bone Crusher Giant Stomp. But even if that ends up happening here, I still get to do this, let them stomp me out, enable both of my Drown in the Locks by doing this, and this way, that's fine. So we saw that coming. But this way, if their next turn is a Kiki Jiki or something, then I've got double Drown in the Lock to counter those, and that'll help eventually get me to the point where I might be able to safely play my Shieldred. It's also pretty cool here if they just decide to go like tap land into playing a Blood Tithe Harvester, because I already have Fatal Push. So that rocks pretty hard if that's the plan as well. And a Misery Shadow certainly goes in that bucket. So let's see if it's a tap land or what. Even better, no land. Damn. Okay, so they're leaving up Fatal Push here in case I play the 1-3, but that's not what I have. So we're just gonna get you to waste 2 life and a whole turn. And here, my Drown in the Locks are going to feel really nice, especially if I actually get to counter a copy of Kiki Jiki, because that card gives us absolute fucking fits. So I am going to counterspell this, and hopefully this is not Thought Seize mana. All right, not Thought Seize. Love to see it. So now what? Do I just jam Shieldred? Yeah, this is fine. So I jam Shieldred. If they jam Shieldred back, then this is going to be able to take care of their Shieldred, but they need a real spell to get rid of mine. And is there a 2-mana spell in hand? Aw. Wait, what? What? Oh! Oh my god, they clicked on the wrong mode. Oh no! Oh, that's so embarrassing. I would have shame scoop too, not gonna lie. But whatever, GG's opponent. Okay, so after playing with 3 rounds with Rogues, Honestly, it feels exactly like I thought it would when you try to translate the old standard deck to a Pioneer Power deck. And the fact that Fairy Mastermind provides a little bit of extra consistency in your turn 2 plays actually does feel pretty nice, right? Like, you're still not playing anywhere near as many creatures as you normally would when you're playing something like Spirits, but the black cards really did shine. Shieldred did exactly what I thought Shieldred would do. It just sat on a table and ended up being the most powerful thing at basically all times. That makes a lot of sense. That's why she's the best card in the format. Kaito was actually really solid. Like, I like this card a lot. Brazen Baller, obviously very good. Thieves Guild Enforcer felt pretty medium, but honestly, that's because we played against 3 decks that don't really care about the ground as much, right? Like, we played against Rakdos twice, which can kill this pretty easily, and then we played against Mono Green, which even a 4-2 Death Touch is like, who cares? You're playing a pile of Llanowar Elves, and like, with Willowhaven can make 2-2 wolves that can block this all day after they do their thing. But the flying half of the deck absolutely bodies Mono Green, so that part was nice. And overall, the answer to would I choose to play this deck in a bigger event over Spirits is a probably unsurprising, but it is a very resounding, loud and clear hell no. And there's a few reasons for that. So when you're playing a deck like this, like I said before, a lot of your matchups are much closer to 50-50 than they are to like 70-30 in either direction. So like this deck, for example, doesn't really have that terrible of a Phoenix matchup, whereas Spirits kind of does. It also doesn't have an overwhelmingly positive matchup against decks like Mono Green or Greasefang, where Spirits absolutely crushes both of those decks. And you just like lose a lot of the free wins that you get. The trade-off, of course, is that your bad matchups are less bad by virtue of having cards like Thoughtseize and Fatal Push in your deck, and we saw that come up when we played against Rakdos twice, right? Like, we got to use cards like Go for the Throat and Power Word Kill to get rid of their big bad creatures that normally Spirits would just look at and be like, shit, what am I supposed to do about this? Well, blue-black decks can just kill them fine. We got to play Shieldred, which was really powerful in a lot of spots. Agadeem's Awakening actually came up big in that last game. And this just like doesn't really perform the same way. Here, I really wanted to be playing things like Curious Obsession so that we were able to keep up on cards versus what our opponents were doing. And a lot of the times we were either top decking or working with only 1 or 2 cards, even when we got to do our thing, right? Like, we had Kaito, and a couple of times with Kaito on the table, we're still looking at 1 or 2 cards in hand per turn. We had Cling to Dust and the ability to escape it, and still only had like 1 or 2 cards in hand. So you don't really get to have those super sweet pieces of card selection that you normally would when you're playing a deck with Curious Obsessions in it, because you're just not drawing that many cards, and when you are, you're not doing so especially early. Like, Kaito Shizuki and Memory Deluge aren't exactly fast ways to draw cards, whereas decks like Spirits can start drawing cards as early as turn 2, especially against decks like Mono Green that we saw, where you kind of need to pick up the pace sometimes because you don't want them to be resolving things like their Storm the Festivals against you. Those cards are incredibly scary, and Drawn into Lock is ultra powerful, but sometimes it is just not as good as like a Geistlight Snare when they're playing their big giant bad card. And of course, all of these 2-mana counterspells are situational, right? Like, you have Geistlight Snare and Lofty Denial, which could be outpaced by Mono Green just having a shit ton of mana, but you can also have Drown in a Lock be outpaced by your opponent playing something big before you can put the requisite number of cards in their graveyard. So, a little bit of give and take there. So, if I were to play this deck again, I think I would change a few big things, right? Like, first, I would probably try to find a way to draw cards in this slot rather than this slot. And if I were to take out something like, say, Memory Deluge, I might put something in its place like, I don't know, maybe a Tainted Indulgence, or something that just like gets you cards without having to wait on turn 106 to get to them. I do like the creature suite here, but a lot of the lists were playing Nighthawk Scavenger, and now that I've played this list, I totally understand why. That card rocks. And I don't know that like this plus this is a good enough core by itself without also presenting the alternate win condition that is just milling your opponent. So if you want this to be the core of your Rogues deck, totally makes sense. But I think that these are probably better accompanied by cards like Ruin Crab, so that you have like a real mill deck on your hand. That way you're able to kind of like turbo out Drawn into Locks, turbo out just 2/3s rather than 1/3s. You get your 4/2s with Death Touch a little quicker. So lining that up with the standard deck of old might be the way to go if you want a lower to the ground mill-centric list that maybe plays more than one Agadeem's Awakening, so that you can revive like Ruin Crab plus like this. And that might end up feeling pretty good as a way to win a game rather than only relying on combat, which this deck does. As far as the sideboard goes, I really like the sideboard. Like, this sideboard is just like solid. I have zero bad things to say about this sideboard. And the last thing I suppose we should address is probably the mana base. The mana base is honestly completely fine. Like, I don't really have too many issues with this mana base, except for the fact that Castle Locthwain is almost always really awkwardly going to come in tapped. That's my only real complaint. Other than that, this is an incredibly smooth mana base. And maybe a list like this that isn't drawing a bunch of cards early wants to go +1 or maybe even +2 lands so that you can reliably hit your land drops a lot more often. But even that is more in favor with the Ruin Crab theory that I kind of posited earlier, because if you're playing Ruin Crabs, you also want a higher land count for things like that. So, I don't know, food for thought. But overall, again, pretty fun list to play. But that's going to be it for today. I'm pretty happy with our 2-1 result. I'm glad we got a couple of nice little laughs along the way there, right? With our mono green opponent auto scooping upon just like not wanting to deal with blue flying nonsense. And then, of course, our Rakdos opponent kind of shame scooping when they chose the wrong mode on Shieldred's Edict. I think I still count that as most of a win, because honestly, our hand was pretty good and they hadn't really gotten to like doing anything yet. So I feel like there was a pretty decent chance that we still won that game. But anyway, that's going to be it for today's input on Rogues. So, did you like the deck? Let me know. Click like if you liked the video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. It does help quite a lot. I've got a lot of y'all coming into places like the Discord channel, just coming in, saying hi, let me know, hey, I saw your video, what's good, help me improve with spirits, whatever the topic is, right? Come in and show some love. I've also seen an increased number of people joining the Patreon lately, so thank you to everybody who is supporting in that fashion as well. Big shout outs, I see all of you. And, well, that's going to be it. I'll see y'all on the next one.